Yeah.
Pleased to be here. Thank you, Germaine.
Hey, John, how you doing, brother?
I'm good.
You're on mute now.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. Looking forward
Yes.
to this. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to Lunchtime Learning with Dr. Juanita Simmons and MJJA's stopRED. Feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation by use of the chat or taking yourself off mute. Please keep yourself muted unless you are speaking, just out of respect for the speaker. I will be putting a link for the survey at the end of today's session. Please, please, please take that survey. It's vital for our grant funding and also helps us make improvements and know where we should look for more speakers. The recording, along with other past sessions, will be available on stopred.org, usually by the end of the week. I want to take the time to thank our funding source. Funds are made available for this project through the Missouri Department of Public Safety and the Missouri Juvenile Justice Advisory Group from funding provided by the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Simmons.
Good afternoon to everyone. And we are very, very pleased that you have chosen to join us today. It is my honor to introduce you to Mr. Germaine Gaspard, who will talk to us from Maturation, Momentum, and Meaning, Reframing Human Development as a Predictor of Youth Performance and Potential. I hope that you've had a minute to read his outstanding background, and that's only a touch of what he has done and continues to do. I'm excited about his background. He's an experienced leadership coach. He is one who is a recipient of the Purple Heart. He is a former Texas Ranger Special Operations Warrior, Juvenile Justice Innovator, National Championship Coach, Youth Diversion Projects, and I'm really impressed with those projects he's designed because he leans toward entrepreneurship with his leadership tactics there. And then, of course, he is one who has earned an MBA, his Master of Business Administration, and is currently completing his degree, a master's in ministry for theology from Southern Methodist University. Read his background. He's a former student of mine. I have to tell you that. It's very special to see him. And you have met quite a few of my former students. So that tells you the type of juvenile experiences we had in our community schools and why I'd love to see us continue to do this work. And I'm pleased that he is passing it on in a greater way. I turn to you, Germaine Gaspard.
Greetings. I can't see the PowerPoint. Is the PowerPoint up on your end?
Yes, I'm looking right at it.
Okay.
Mm.
Let's work that out. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for having me. Thank you for having me. We have to start where and give the flowers where they're due. Before I move any forward, I would love to say, and I will say, thank you to Miss Juanita Simmons, Dr. Simmons. Now, she met me 30 plus years ago. I was one of the young people that we are discussing that was trying to find my way. And she gave me some tools, some skill sets, and some abilities that allow me to do so. And I would not be here without that. So I definitely appreciate that. Going on to, there we go. I'm trying to find, I can see y'all, but I can't see my PowerPoint. Do you see me moving it now?
No.
You may have to click off the view of the participants in order to see your screen. Sometimes it's funny like that. Now your screen is not showing on the presentation.
Okay. You should see it now.
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay. All right. So, all right. One more house cleaning because I want to set the foundation. There's a tradition of warriors from across the world, and before they present to their family, their tribe, their culture, their clan, what they do is they state their name, their date of birth, and their age. The reason why they do that is because anything that I say, any value that I add, I have to attribute it to my name. That's what integrity state. The reason why I say my age, my date of birth is because nothing that I tell you, nothing that I share with you is more valuable than those that have come before me and those that have done the work before me. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. So in the midst, in relationship to that tradition, I'm going to tell you my name. I'm going to give you my age, my date of birth, and I'm going to ask all those that are my elders to give me permission to present to you. You can either do it by chat or coming off and then verbally doing it. My name is Germaine Gaspard. I am 48 years old. I was born August 7th, 1977. I will ask all my elders permission to be able to present to you.
Granted.
Okay. So the title, Maturation, Momentum, and Meaning. Why that title? What does it mean? Maturation. When we speak to maturation, we're talking about the growth. When you look at words and their origin and their beginning, maturation in its Hebrew setting means completeness. It means good fruit. It means prosperity and success. Right? Those terms are essential to understanding the word maturation because all words are the expressions of ideas. So the true meaning of maturation, as we will dive into, is the completing and growing of good fruit for prosperity and success. I like to hang on the term prosperity and success for a little bit. So in our Western culture, Western civilization, we understand prosperity and success as financial terms, right? Success and prosperity are financial terms. However, in their root, in their origination, they were military terms. Prosperity actually meant to forcefully enter, to break through, to succeed. Success means to comprehend, to understand, and incremental growth, which means there cannot be any prosperity, there cannot be any growth, there cannot be good fruit until there's comprehension, understanding, and the breaking through into new spaces. That breaking through is momentum, and doing so with purpose gives it meaning. Why am I here? What are some of the things that I've done? Dr. Simmons has spoken to that. Some of the things that I've done, from being executive coach to being the CEO to being a national championship coach, et cetera, et cetera. Those things I have married together with what I do inside communities to grow individuals, to grow teams, to be higher, to have potential to higher yielding performance. That's simply on the grassroots level and the bottom line what I look to do. Turn potential into higher yielding performance. Leadership development is synonymous with individual growth. Team building is synonymous with community growth. Doing these things in process, in symmetry, allows for us to grow as a culture, us as a people, and our youth to grow into what they are designed and what they're supposed to be. Now, the goal of today's talk is to share a mindset, right? This mindset of empowerment. And what does that mean to empower? I'll share about 4 different programs that we have created and grown, and that success and some of the success to it. But the mindset that we utilize to do so is transferable to any program that is purpose driven and is growing young people to be complete, to be good fruit, to be prosperous, and to be successful. The idea of power is an exchange, right? If you see here on this slide, I was not made to wander. I was sent to walk in power. I can't really see y'all because I'm looking at my PowerPoint, but I would like to ask you to come off mute and say, how many of you have a desire to be powerful? What does that look like for you? Does anyone in here not have a desire to be powerful? I take that silence to mean no. The reason why we have an innate desire to be powerful is because we have a desire to have some kind of care, custody, and control about what happens around us and what happens to us. How we define power is essentially related to how we identify with ourselves. Is power something that's overbearing? Is power something that's controlling? Is power something that's dominant? What is power to us? It's essential, because the young people that I poured into, the young people that you're pouring into, they're looking for a way to control their environment. They're looking for a way to control what happens next. Some on a grassroots level. Will I eat? Where will I sleep? Some on a higher level. Where will I go to college? Where will I go to school? How will I love? Who will love me? Who's going to hurt me? All these things are power dynamics. Now, the power cycle and the power exchange means that once I give power and the power comes back, it comes back stronger and stronger and stronger. But for someone that is trauma or dealing with triggering, when they receive power, they hold on to it and they grasp it and they don't let it go. And it doesn't have the ability to empower them to meet their full potential. These are some of the success stories in the case studies, right? So Track Dynamite, I served as a coach there for 10 years. During that 10-year time period, we won 7 national championships. We had over 100 All-Americans. The biggest thing that we were successful there in is having a 100% graduation rate, first from high school, then from undergrad, and then into grad school. How did we do that? What was the motivation for that? Well, what we recognize is that identity plus structure equals progress. I'm going to say that again. Identity plus structure equals progress. What we were able to do was to help them see themselves as something, not as they were, but something that they were to be in their maturation, in their growth state. Allowing them to see themselves as something great, allow them to walk into being great. There is, it's not by accident that when you look at Judeo-Christian religions, when you look at Islam, there's talk of image. When you look at any other religion out there, there's a talk about image. What is my image? How do I see myself, right? What we did was during that 10-year time period, we created a space where the image of themselves reflected greatness, and the expectation became greatness. And through that expectation, they started fabricating that greatness for them. I'll give you an example. There was a young lady by the name of Lopez. Lopez was the most unathletic child I have ever coached. Knock-kneed, pigeon-toed, everything that you could think of. She just was unathletic. She came to us from high school. She had never even won at a district level at her local high school. Between May and August, she became an All-American. To be an All-American means that you have to finish within the top 8 of whatever that event is. She was running the 4x8. That's 4 people, 4 children running 800 meters. We were in Iowa at Drake University. We traveled from Texas to Iowa by van. Had 20-something kids that qualified to make it to the Junior National Olympic Championship. We had 67 rooms. Everyone, we figured it out. When it was her time to run, and she's at the final meet, she's at the final stage, she's in the national championship race. She takes the baton. I'm sitting on the second curve, and the second time she comes around, she's about to finish. She has about 100 some yards to go. Her eyes are closed, her arms are wailing, her form looks horrible. But she's running. She finishes 8th. When she received the baton, she was in 8th place. Being 8th means that her and her team were All-Americans. I said, Lopez, after the race, man, I don't even know how you stayed in your lane. Your eyes were closed, your arms were flailing. How did you, like, what were you thinking at the point in the time where you were running? What she said to me is, Coach, I just knew that I would fall out before I let anybody catch me. I wasn't going to let me down or my team down. I just was going to get there. That is what we're speaking of, identity. That small space, whether she wins another track meet, another race, becomes an All-American anywhere else in track and field, that opportunity to have that experience is the empowering process that allowed her to graduate from college, high school, and beyond. These are two more case studies, right? Alexandria, Louisiana. In Alexandria, Louisiana, I work with the housing authority there. The housing authority there, Alexandria, Louisiana, as a city during the time, was identified as the third most dangerous city in America and the most dangerous college town in America. They had an LSU derivative there. All right. Inside the space, I worked with the housing authorities there, where we saw a lot of crime that was indicated and sparked from the housing authority just because of the impact of low income, lack of security, things of that nature. Within a 3-year time period, we declined violent crime in the housing authority by 70% without using incarceration as our primary tool. All right. What did we do? Well, we did several different things. I came in on board, met with police chief, brought in officers that I interviewed and brought them on property. The officers that could meet the standard that I thought of community policing. We all know crime is highest between Thursday and Saturday around 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Most security models or policing models has a large number of police officers during that time period. What we did, contrary to that, is I had officers there around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the school bus lets out. When the school bus let out and the children came out the school bus, the officers there to greet them every day. Additionally, we signed up senior citizens that if they needed help with groceries, that the officers would help them take their groceries inside the home. This is before Uber and Uber Eats and all the different apps that we use now. We also did what was called knock and talks, where the officers that work the property would just knock on door to door to door, just make contact with the residents and just create bonding and community. What we know about crime is that 90% of all people want to live in a safe environment. There's only a 1% derivative that are going to be crime-based or crime-oriented, unless there's something that influxes that 1% to something else. Through the relationship, through being available, through empowering and sharing power with the community, we were allowed to drive those crime rates down without incarceration being our primary tool. What the primary tool was empowering the community to empower their police officers to police them and to keep them safe. Jamaican national rugby team worked with their spatial awareness through the leadership and team building that we saw there. They had an excellent run through the World Games. And this will be the last one that I share, and then we'll move on to the dynamics inside of each of these programs. This is something I'm super excited about that we are growing now. We call it Dirty Hands, Clean Money. Dirty Hands and Clean Money. All right. So in Fort Worth, Texas, we have a 4-acre church. We have boys that are from the community or from the church at large that are cutting the grass and groundskeeping. The money that the church would normally pay entities to come and cut the grass or lawn care are now being reinvested inside of the young men that live and work around the church. All right. Now, that's just the beginning. The second portion of that is that once they become proficient at cutting grass at the church, we're going to give them what's called a starter pack, which is going to be a lawnmower, an edger, and a blower. We're going to give them, we're going to help for them to create LLCs. And then they're going to go and secure contracts in the neighborhoods that they live in. For every 5 homes that they secure, they have to give back by cutting the grass of an elderly family, elderly person for free, having that connectivity there, right? The funds that they earn, 50% will go into their pockets. So they, again, dirty hands, clean money. We want you to wear the nice shoes, the nice shirt. We want you to be able to enjoy yourself. The other 50%, we are in the process of creating a trust that after they graduate either from trade school, military, college, or some form of extension after high school, they can utilize those funds either to purchase a home for the first time. If they create a business plan and give it to SBA and it's approved to help fund that business, or to pay down educational debt. Now, redefining power. Oftentimes, power is identified as a negative thing. Oftentimes, when I go and I speak to groups and I ask them to raise their hand, we're having face-to-face conversations, it's a shyness about saying that I want to be powerful. Well, that shyness comes from seeing power from a destructive perspective rather than an empowering perspective, right? And for that purpose, we identify the difference between power and force. Power and force are two different things, right? So force is pushing something, while power is influencing something. Two different things. Force is pushing, power is influencing. The question is, what are we influencing, right? So when we break down power, this is our acronym. First is purpose, living life on purpose. The idea of living life on purpose is a duality of purposefully making decisions, but also identifying that I have a purpose attached to me. That's super important. Once the children in our programs identify that there's a purpose attached to them, that means that they're not an accident, that they're here by design, and there's fundamentally something that they're supposed to do that only they can do. Purpose. Ownership. Ownership ties to being, respectful. Being respectful, responsible. Ownership ties to being responsible. What does that mean? That no matter what we're doing, there's going to be some hard times. There's going to be some things that we need to figure out. Everything is not going to be handed, right? How do you respond to that? Do you take ownership, personal responsibility, which means that I'm going to respond for my abilities rather than complaining, griping, or are you going to do something negative? Ownership. Once I understand that I am purposefully here, it's easier for me to take ownership of the situation because I'm here to succeed. I'm not here to fail. So there's something that I have in my toolbox, in my relationships, that can help me overcome. So now I take ownership of that situation. Wisdom. Wisdom is an action statement. Wisdom, like love, like hate, like disgruntledness, like all of those myriad of other things, is an action statement. Wisdom is the actualization of understanding and knowledge. Those things come through purpose and ownership. Excellence. Excellence deals with identity. Excellence is different than perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. Excellence does. Excellence is the ability to excel and do better. It goes back to the original word of success, incremental growth. Did you incrementally grow today? What did you excel? You were excellent. Perfection is not a real thing. And oftentimes, false identity allows us to try to attach ourselves to the false idea of perfection. This is pivotal. An example I would give is when I was in special operations, one of the first classes that we had to take is to create hides. Hides is being in a wooded area and having a sniper veil around you so that people can't see you going and coming, things of that nature. One of the first things that we learned in this process of creating a hide is that there are no straight lines, circles, or squares in nature. Meaning that if you're creating a hide and you're trying to blend in with the environment, and if there's a straight line, circle, or square inside of that hide, the naked eye can see you from up to 100 feet away because you stand out. There are no straight lines. It's all crooked lines. But those crooked lines are perfectly and wonderfully made. You can excel from any perspective. Having these first four allows for reverence. Reverence is the idea of this is special, set it apart. This is sacred. This is holy. Whatever terminology you want to use for that reverence. I have reverence for this because I've set it apart. When I work hard for something, you're going to have to work even harder to take it from me. The idea of work. All right. So when I say warrior mindset, I wrote a book, Warrior Mindset. I've used that book to coach. When I went to Jamaica, when I deal with executive coaches, when I deal with athletes, this 4-step cardinal principles are the 4 principles in which we identify what a warrior mindset is. All right. The first is balance. What is balance? Oftentimes people think balance is 50-50, right? 50-50 is balance in a static environment. How many of us go to work and we work in a static environment where there are no stressors, there is nothing that's really, really pushing us? It doesn't exist. So the true definition of balance is the inputs needed in order for me to move forward to achieve my objective or goal. Meaning, if I'm walking forward and there's a hard wind coming from left to right, that means I have to lean into the wind to stay on course. The first thing we have to do whenever we're building physical strength is maintaining our balance. But that also means emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Inside the programs that we create, what we're doing is creating spaces, one for them, the youth to get their balance, and then we test their balance. The testing of balance is dealing with endurance. Endurance means the capacity to maintain balance, right? The difference between endurance and enduring is endurance is enduring the past, enduring is enduring to take on. What we want to give them is endurance. Don't just stay here and manipulate this problem, fix the problem, go on to the next. Learn how to maintain your balance through turbulent situations. So once they have their balance, once they have a level of endurance, now they can maintain it at a certain degree. The question now is, can you maintain this balance in different environments? Are you flexible? The word we use here is tough. The definition of tough for us is doing the right thing, the right way, for the right reason, regardless of the environment. Are you tough enough to be flexible? Or are you so rigid that it can only go one way? After they have these 3 indicators, these 3 strengths, the question is how do you focus them? Because if you can focus them, there's no area that you cannot become stronger in. These archetypes that I use here are archetypes that we use, but they're interchangeable, right? The word king can be queen, it can be whatever you desire, right? But these are the 4 archetypes that we use in understanding our youth and how we're growing them, right? The lover is the beginning, right? When we're born, we love our mothers. We have a relationship there with our mothers that is love induced. We know that she provides the need for us in most situations, but there's someone there because a child cannot take care of itself, that I love this thing that takes care of me. Now, the balance, the endurance portion of it is, am I going to be addicted to this love, this feeling of love? Or am I going to be impotent of it? Is something going to happen or transpire that takes me away from it? Descending to the peak of this is the balance of moving forward. The magician is the alchemist of being able to see a tree and be able to see a table and take that tree, that wood, and turn it into a table. So it's manipulating something physical and making it something of use. Again, being out of balance. Are you going to be manipulative for your own gain? Or are you going to be always innocent and use that in a form of manipulation? The warrior. The warrior is someone who has self-control and lives by a code. Again, that can be taken to further extremes, right? Like the identity of masculinity being attached to a patriarchal vantage point, right? The patriarchal vantage point, it can be masochistic or sadistic, but masculinity is supposed to be generative, nurturing, loving. And especially with our boys, understanding that for them to be a warrior doesn't mean that they have to be mean-spirited or evil or have a desire to hurt. It all comes from a desire, from the root desire where they began to love. The king, the identity is, again, the ability to focus. How do we focus what is appropriate for the thing that we're trying to acquire. Why do we do this? Why have we broken this down? In order to answer these 5 questions. We've identified that these 5 questions are the questions every human being on earth has asked themselves and is seeking to ask. Who am I? The question of identity, and image. Who am I? When I spoke to you about Lopez, at some point in time during her training and during that race, the question was, who am I? She identified as, I'm the person that will not quit. I'm the person that will not let my team down. Where do I come from? A question of ancestry and heritage. Well, if you identify simply with a physical place, then you're limited by that physical ability. In that same story with Lopez, where did she come from? I came from a place that earned the right to be here. All the workouts, all the sweat, all the toil, I earned to be here. So I'm here with confidence. Why am I here? She was there to win. Period. She traveled from Texas to Drake, Iowa to win. What can I do? Her capacity, her potential. She recognized her capacity and her potential because of the work that she put in previously. Potential extremely important, right? So purpose without potential is impotent. Potential without purpose is wayward. It has to be married together. Lastly, where am I going? After Lopez became an All-American, she continued to run track. She continued to do some great things. She got a scholarship, went on to graduate again with both her undergrad and then a master's degree. She was the first child in her family to obtain a college degree and then to obtain a secondary degree. And she's still working and being that for her family to this day. All right, breaking the warrior code. There's an identity with violence, especially when we're dealing with our youth. We're seeing it across the United States. Like, what is this identity with violence? What is this? Well, it's their desire for control, their desire to feel safe, and an internal need to have dominion. Goes back to that power complex because power hasn't been redefined for them, right? When we have with the programs that we set, we teach that it is your right to have dominion over an area of gifting, not over people. That subtleness changes everything. I want you to have dominion over an area of gifting, not over people. So whatever your skill set is, whatever your purpose is, whatever your dream is, whatever your vision is, it is your job, it is your role to dive in full-hearted, wholehearted, and have dominion in that area. Control it, work it, maneuver it. And then when you become great in that area of gifting, then you gift it to someone or something else to make a larger purpose move forward. By refocusing that energy for violence now is reappropriated for something positive. That's why the clean hands, dirty money objective is so powerful. The desire for a lot of these guys is, I want to own a business. I want to be a boss. I want to have nice clothes. I want to be able to buy my mother nice things. I want to know that I have a future. But when we did the study and did the research, a lot of CEOs started with paper routes, selling candy at school, having a candy house or some small business of that sort. And through the application of loss and balance sheets, profit and loss statements, things of that nature on a very small level by selling candy in a paper route, they were able to motivate at a later date and expand from that understanding. That's what we're doing. I want you to get your money up, as the kids would say. I want you to paper up. I want you to do all those things, but do it in a way that doesn't sabotage your future. Now, while we're doing that, we use the model of coaching, teaching, telling. 80% of what we do is coaching. What does that mean? 80% is mentorship, actually doing the thing. It's to say something and do something different has an opposite effect. The coaching is no different than coaching a sport, coaching band. Like, I'm here in the trenches with you. I'm showing you how to play this instrument. I'm showing you how to run this play. I'm showing you how to shoot this ball. I'm showing you I'm here with you. Why is that important? Because people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. The definition of care, providing a need before it's needed. The coaching aspect is the care aspect. I care enough to be present. Okay. So now that's 80%, 10% teaching. The teaching aspect is, okay, this is the X and O's to what you need to do. The last 10% is going to be telling. You need to do this, you need this, you need to do this. But again, the large majority is coaching through mentorship. All right, breaking the warrior code. Discipline is not about effect. Discipline is about reverence. Another word for discipline is being a disciple of something bigger than yourself. When you have reverence for something, you reverence it and hold it in high esteem because you see it as being something larger than yourself. The question is, oftentimes when we're working with our programming is, what do you reverence? What do you see yourself as? What do you see that's bigger than you? Is it mother? Is it grandmother? Is it something to eat? Is it feeling important? All those things relate to identity. By changing and working with the identity of a person, you now can change the person. Oftentimes we stay on behavioral, right? The behavior is fine. The behavior is just the fruit of the extension of the root. The root is identity. What's in their subconscious and super subconscious? What are they automatically doing on autopilot? And they don't even know why they're doing it, but it's been seen and tested, right? We know what they're listening to. We know what the music says. We know what's on TV. All those different things are suggesting what their identity should look like. In all of the programs that I've shared with you, what we did and were successful at doing is redefining identity and exchanging the idea of power for empowering. Discipline is reverence, right? Discipline is being a disciple of something bigger than yourself. Discipline is alignment with purpose. And these three things are what we not necessarily give to the children, because we do have mantras, right? And for different groups, we have different mantras. But the backing of the mantra is faith creates atmosphere. Discipline creates credibility. Repetition creates inevitability, right? Your faith is going to create the atmosphere. Your faith is going to determine what your attitude is. Your attitude is determined by what your expectation is. So if I have an expectation of learning something today, if I have expectation of something good happening, my attitude is generally good, so that faith creates that environment. Discipline creates credibility. Discipline creates credibility, right? Being on time, being consistent creates credibility. Sounds super simple. But when we deal with our young people, a lot of them want to be elite, but have an average work ethic. No, that doesn't work. Or they want to be treated like they're elite, but act average. No. The truth of the matter is everyone is not treated the same in that space. If you're going to be treated elite, it's because you demanded that treatment through your elite action. And repetition creates inevitability. Last but not least, our implementation. How do we do it? All right. So easy win, right? Easy. Evaluate, analyze, strategize, implement. So when we're working in our programs, day by day, week by week, we continuously are evaluating what transpired. And what I mean by evaluating, the purpose is already prescribed, and we're evaluating, were we successful? Was there any incremental growth to purpose? All right. If there was or was not, we're going to analyze that data and see what happened. Based on that data, we're going to strategize, then we're going to implement. When we identify what we want to implement, it's going to be when, what's important next, right? You can't eat an elephant at one time, you choke yourself. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. So we're going to evaluate, we're going to analyze, we're going to strategize, okay? What's important next? What's the next thing we need to do to implement to have some form of success, which will lead to our prosperity? And that's the mindset in which we have created our programming and seen success. I've said a lot. I look forward to answering questions.
We do have a question in the chat that says, explain how the youth are referred to your program and how your diversion activities interconnect with juvenile systems.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Explain how the youth are referred to your program and
Okay.
how your diversion activities interconnect with juvenile systems.
Okay. So the way that they refer to our program is through relationships. In Dallas and throughout Dallas, I have multiple relationships. I sit on multiple boards. The people that I am in relationship with also sit on boards, churches, things of that nature. Through those spaces, we have access to different situations and scenarios. Also, being in law enforcement, I do have relationships with judges that make those kind of decisions, case management, case workers, things of that nature. I have 25 years in DPS, the Texas Department of Public Safety. My time as a special operations was only 5 years. The other time, 5 years is as a special agent. The other 10 years were actually working the street. Currently, I'm doing training, operations and development. So my whole life is around operations and development, and that's how I make that connectivity. As I look to retire here within the next 3 to 6 months, what I look to do is being full-time with my organization, working directly with the courts. One of the things that I did not share is we do work with the Dallas County Juvenile Justice Matlock, which is we're the highest offenders of felonies for youth. We're housed. We run programs there monthly. And we also work with the other program initiatives that work through the juvenile justice system.
Do you have data that supports your work?
Yes. So the data with regards to Alexandria, monthly, we did crime stats and crime reports. And that's how we were able to track the 70% decrease in crime. So what we did was part of that program was every month we had a town hall meeting. We had all of the calls and all of the arrests that were made on property or related to the property, and we tracked it through that. With the education, regarding the graduation rates, okay, so we track that through the educational system, through those teens turning back into adults and coming back.
I can appreciate the fact that you have taken actual work and practical experiences and converted them into a theoretical approach. Walk me through an example of what would happen if a kid is referred to you who is maybe 16 years old and has had repeated offenses. Where would you start looking at some of the theoretical approaches that you've discussed here? Where would you start with that child? I'm looking at the 4 core questions. Where would the starting point be? Because I see some fantastic approaches here, but would like to know what would you put your hands on to start?
Great question. So that is why the the dirty hands, clean money objective that we're working on now. That's why that's pivotal, right? When in track and field, it was the kids that wanted to come run track and field. With the rugby team, with the kids that play rugby. This initiative with going to the churches and working directly with different pastors to find that their congregation attached to their children and their boys, where we can now have a funneling system that teaches them how to account for themselves, be responsible, as well as their entrepreneurial growth. That's where we would start. Now, we also have a thing called Circle, where we bring the boys in, and it's an accountability circle where they're enclosed by a group of men. And sometimes the boys that we do this with, this is the first time they've turned around and looked nothing but men in the face. We bring in someone that they care and love about, whether it's mother, grandmother, uncle, grandparent, doesn't matter, in the room as well. We sit down there after talking to the grandparents, and we put them in a circle, and then we press, right? And we press and we press and we press until we get to some kind of root of understanding. Even if the understanding is, I don't know why I'm doing this. That's a real response, right? Then the question is, do you want more? Do you want more? Because we're here. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help you. But the feeling of helplessness, being in that circle, in a safe space, beats that first time feeling of helplessness while incarcerated.
I was really taken by the core identity questions and wondering if you, that same kid that I'm talking about, what type of response have you had when you ask those questions? There's some deep, gutted questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What type of response have you had with young people using those core questions? Because they kind of hit at the gut for me.
Yes. So with those identity questions, you have grown men who can't even answer those questions, let alone children, right? So we walk in understanding the grace that needs to be applied. So the first question is, who are you? Well, they're going to tell you their name. Okay. There's 1,000 Johnnies. There's 1,000,000 Johnnies. Who is Johnny? I'm a football player. Well, what does that mean? So now, again, we're starting to peel back those layers. And then ultimately, we give them the identity statement. I walk as one sent. I work as one assigned. I finish as one chosen, right? So, but we're walking them down to that. Okay, once we identify who you are, meaning that I'm not this thing that you're looking at, I'm a group of ideas, I'm a group of desires, I'm a group of, like, I have all these different things that you don't, I'm all that you don't see. Once we get past that, we can go to the other 4 questions. But the first thing is for them to identify is, I am something that can't be seen, that is yet to be. And then we can talk about what you're becoming. Is anyone else? I know
What is the typical age of the youth in your program?
For the Clean Hands, Dirty Minded project, it's going to be 14 to 17, simply because they're going to have to be old enough to cut grass and to be around those tools, right? The process is a 3-step process. It's a apprentice process where you come in and you learn. Then there's a secondary process where now that you pass apprenticeship, you know how to do certain things. You can cut in straight line. Some of these boys can't even cut grass in a straight line. Boy, just go straight. You ain't got to just go straight, right? But being part of that process, and then after the last process, then being able to help them go into the field, right? The main thing is after we train and work out, because there's a physical fitness portion of it as well, because we're not going to put you outside in these elements and not know that you are physically capable. So we have some boys that are coming in from not being outside, just sitting in the house watching TV, things of that nature, right? So that portion of it, and then after we work out, we're going to eat and fellowship together, so that now there's a sense of belonging and family, all right? What I did not share, what we know to be true, especially dealing with boys, is that the most important thing to a boy and to a man is intimacy, all right? Finding some form of intimacy. And what I mean by intimacy is there's nothing more intimate than someone preparing to go in harm's way for you and with you, or willing to sacrifice for you, right? So that's why our boys, they tend to go to team sports and group activities and games, right? Because they're looking for a level of intimacy that is non-physical. Now, they'll delineate to the lowest form of intimacy, which is physical intimacy, right? But what they're really wanting is some kind of compatibility to understand that they're not alone, so they can help find who they are. And that we give them that through mentorship.
That's great. Does anybody else have any questions for Germaine? There's one in the chat. What do you do with a preteen who won't talk about anything bothering them unless they are provoked to anger?
Okay. Is this a boy or girl? Can you put that in chat?
I'm betting it's a boy. Let's see.
Okay. And the reason why I asked boy, girl. All right. So if they're only speaking when they're provoked to anger, is because they don't feel safe to talk, whether because of the current environment or a previous environment. So again, they don't care what you know, what you can do until they know how much you care. So before you ask them to talk, you have to be able to care for them. Oftentimes we think our boys need more discipline. They really just need more love, right? So the understanding is, and the idea of disciplining outside of love is abuse, right? So we can do the same thing, right? I can make a kid do 10 push-ups and I'm doing it because I love them. I make him do 10 push-ups because I'm mad at them. One is abuse, one is discipline, right? So before they're not talking, well, I'm sorry, not before. They're not talking because there's an inference there that if I show myself, what will you say? I'm not secure in the relationship. If I show myself, what will you say? Have I heard that if I cry, I'm weak? Have I heard that all I can do is fight and produce, right? So what we have to do is for that boy, for that girl that doesn't feel comfortable talking, is assure them that when they do talk, we're not going to run from them. Because oftentimes that's what we see.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't think so. Dr. Simmons?
I am very grateful for this outstanding presentation today, and it gives us a lot to think about. I've gained a lot myself. Sometimes going back and looking at our approaches toward youth and rethinking the system. So I greatly appreciate and respect the work that you're doing and the theory and the studying and the research that you're putting behind this, because I do agree that we've got to begin looking at more positive approaches in reaching our youth, and particularly during this time where they are now rethinking the age requirements and going back, looking at, doing things differently, changing that 17-year-old age, looking at juveniles who are committing violent acts. So it is time that we get very, very serious, and I appreciate what you've shared. I'd like to also, if I can get the host piece, Liz, do an announcement too that's upcoming.
Germaine, if you'll stop sharing, please. There you go.
Can I make one comment regarding violence as well?
Mm-hmm.
So,
please do.
I was and I'm still responsible for securing wealthy people. And during the interview process, I was asked, what is your definition of violence? Okay. And my answer was this: violence is anything someone do that impedes someone else's will without their consent or their intended objective, right? So now often when we think of violence, we think of contact. When you have a police car that gets behind another vehicle and turns its lights on, that impedes their progress of their intended goal. That's a violent act. Now, that's not the same. So with that understanding, violence is not always necessarily bad. However, from that perspective of violence, we recognize the different attributes of violence. Physical contact is the extreme of violence, of force on force. However, violence is introduced into relationships anytime we impede the intentions of another without their willful consent. And I'll step back.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing that too, because we've got some new conversations going across the country. And I think as juvenile professionals, we need to really be on top of what's going on and the current temperament. Thank you so much again for this outstanding presentation today. And we want to invite you to an upcoming virtual conference. We won't have lunchtime for the red lunchtime for the month of September because we invite you that Tuesday the 16th and Wednesday the 17th for 9 to noon on the Tuesday and from 1 to 4 on that Wednesday to join in a conversation on connecting childhood trauma and delinquency. The virtual conference, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. And so we hope that you plan to attend and to invite others. We have a group of professionals who are coming in, and some of the topics include racialized trauma, suffocated grief, compounding trauma with rural poverty, traumatized, bullied LGBTQIA trauma of young people. So we'd like for you all to participate and to be a part of that. And Liz, do you have McFadden? That's for October.
Yes, and so registration for that will be out shortly. So keep an eye on MJJA website, and it'll also, we usually blast it out as well. And then for October, oh, I have too many windows open. For October, we have Shannon McFadden, and she is going to be presenting on school discipline to incarceration, special education, resiliency, and reentry. And that'll be on October 22nd. And that registration will be up shortly as well, along with, and it'll be on the stopRED.org, and I'll blast it out as well. So we would love to see you in September at our virtual conference instead of our lunchtime learning session. Of course, that's free to attend, and you're welcome to, anybody can attend. And then again in October for our lunchtime learning, and just check stopRED.org to register. Please take the survey that I did put in the chat, and I really appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
And thanks for those beautiful comments that you've sent to Mr. Gaspard. They're thanking you in the chat box, and we appreciate that. And they're asking for contact with some of your groups and all of that. So he'll be posted, his slides, and hopefully your information will be on the slides when you do send them for posting with that. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your presence, everyone, and a special thanks to Germaine Gaspard.
Thank you.
Amen.